So I've got a problem. This is what I carry in my pockets every single day. And I can recognize that it's a lot, but it's like I always say, carry what you need and need what you carry. I do use this stuff on almost a daily basis, so getting rid of some of it really isn't a great option. But I want to cut down on the gear granola in my pockets. A few months back, I started doing a bunch of research on pocket organizers. I found some good ones, I found some bad ones. We're gonna be looking at the 6 best, and we're gonna kick it off with an American-made classic from Hitch and Timber. This is the Hitch and Timber Country Fold, and this was my first foray in an attempt to organize all that gear granola going on in my pocket. You'll notice that all of the solutions we're gonna see are a gear organization and wallet combination, and that's just because I'm trying to organize things as much as I possibly can in one place just to keep it nice and tight. The Country Fold is really cool. I've carried this thing extensively. I really enjoyed it. It comes with a notebook, so you can see here it has a Hitch and Timber notebook in it. It is a 5-inch notebook, not a 5.5 like most field notes and moleskins. So you can find 5 inches everywhere as well, but just so you know, it won't fit your standard field notes. And then on this side, it has just kind of a gear organization pocket. So you have kind of a wider bit here that you can carry a small knife, probably a thinner slip joint would be the best way to go. And then, you know, a pen or some tools, something like that. And then it has this back fold as well. We loaded all these out just with fun gear. So in the back here, my buddy Jeremy Sires sent me this cool man card a couple years ago. And then behind both of these storage places, you also have card space or places to put pictures or places to put cash or whatever it may be. I've got some like custom van collector cards. That's a real thing, just so you guys know. When I was carrying it regularly, on the back side of my notebook, I kept some physical pictures of just people in my life that I care for, because I like carrying physical pictures for people that are really close to me. So overall, the Country Fold was a really, really great carry, but it didn't quite encompass as much as I needed. The loose nature of it, that it didn't close all the way up, meant that a lot of my gear and stuff did get really dirty. It seemed like it kind of concentrated some dirt a lot more. I'm in the dirt a lot, so this only applies if you find yourself out in the desert a lot, rolling around in the dirt, I guess, like I do. And another thing for me was there's definitely a break-in period. So this is a really high quality piece of gear, handmade here in the United States. I mean, just really thick leather. So there's definitely a little bit of break-in period, but with the amount of cards that I carry and liking carrying cash, I did find that that leather was a little sticky sometimes, trying to get cards in and out, trying to get cash in and out. So that was just my experience. I was carrying it pretty full, and so I was really stressing out those cards, and I was really putting a lot of tension on the inside on that cash. So it was more on my carry than any sort of a flaw in the Hitch and Timber system. Like I said, really, really great system, lots of awesome attention to detail, and like I said, handmade, high quality leather. Now, obviously, as a result, there is a price that comes with that. So the Country Fold goes for right around $130. With the extra gear, all of these systems are gonna be thicker than a normal wallet, so I would recommend carrying them in a front pocket. I carry all of these in my front left pocket. Here's the Hitch and Timber Country Fold in my front left pocket. From the Country Fold, I figured I needed something that had a little more space in it, which leads us to our next option, which is a little less expensive and has a lot more space. This is the Hide and Drink multi-tool pocket pouch. It's a bit of a mouthful, but a really well-made, high-quality piece of gear that not only has kind of your organizers and stuff on this side, as you guys can obviously see, we'll dive into here in just a little while, but also has a nice big zipper area on the back side where you can put all sorts of gear, gadgets, cash, whatever you need to carry, which was one of the reasons I was drawn to it in looking to expand my capacity for carry. Now, let's talk a little bit about the pouches on this, because when you look at it and you think about the gear that you own, right, you see like an obvious slot where you'd probably put a pen. You see an obvious slot where you'd probably put a small knife, and an obvious spot where you'd probably put a flashlight and then a journal. Except for everything on this is just a little bit more narrow than you would expect. Now, these are handmade, so maybe this is just a difference in the one that I got. But you'll notice that we have this kind of just inexpensive Bic pen in the pen slot, and that's because the pen slot is so narrow that unless you have a really narrow pen, and you definitely can't have any rubber grip, the pen's just not gonna slide in and out easily, not making it very effective for consistent and simple carry. Same thing goes for the knife pouch. The knife pouch, we've got a Benchmade Weekender in there right now, and that's about as wide of a knife as you could go as far as this kind of main knife pouch compartment would go. Also, with that nice thick leather that they put around all of the edging, which is awesome and makes it tough, it does make it a little bit hard to slide a pocket clip over that very easily. And again, just kind of like repeatably and simply. And then finally, the flashlight pouch, we've got a Olight, it's like the IT3 or whatever it's called, kind of that more narrow, skinny one. And that is probably the maximum amount of flashlight that you could hold in the flashlight pouch. So it's just something to consider if this is something that you're looking at, is that when you're looking at those pockets online or even here in the video, just take note that they are just a little bit more narrow than you would think. And that brings us to this main fold up top. So originally I got this and I was like, oh cool, I could put a journal in it. Except that it's just a little too narrow for your standard moleskins, field notes, even that Hitch and Timber when we saw that was shorter. You'd have to buy a more thin journal if you wanted to keep a journal in this piece here. With the zipper on the other side though, we have this really cool thin Energizer power pack. And this is something you can charge your phone with. If you guys haven't noticed on the channel, we're kind of beating that drum. Like, remember, your phone is part of your EDC. You should be prepared to use your phone for long periods of time if you need to. And we found that this little phone charger fits perfectly in that fold, doesn't make it bulky or weird, and comes in and out really nicely. That could be a really neat alternative for a case like this, which makes this zipper area something that you could do if you work in IT or you work in tech, or you're just somebody who's interested in that and you want to have, you know, a little bit of gear and gadgets on you. This zipper pouch holds a lot of stuff and holds it really well and doesn't crunch up on your gear on the front. You'll notice that with some of these pocket pouches that you can purchase, there's a lot of space until you actually put like 2 or 3 tools in it, and then all of a sudden all the space disappears because those tools kind of like take up all of the width capacity that the pouch will have. But with the hide and drink, that's not the case, and you've got a lot of freedom, a lot of movement. Great little case, awesome construction, handmade in Central and South America, which is pretty cool. Great little pouch, and it goes for like 20, 25 bucks. We've got links down in the description to all the stuff in the video. Might be a great fit for you. From here, I decided that I'd hit 2 limits where I was like, this one's a little too tight, this one's a little too small, I can't keep my journal for me personally. So I was like, okay, I need to step it up a little bit. So let's take a look at the Big Daddy Pocket Organizer. This is the VE18 EDC pouch from Viperade. I don't know a lot about this company, but I do know that they have a really cool name. It's like Gatorade, but cooler. And this is the big daddy of all of the pouches that we're gonna see in our lineup today. It's got 3 dimensions to it, which is pretty spectacular. So on the front, obviously, you've got a couple pouches. It'll carry a notebook, no problem. And then it has these kind of like Molly-esque webbing on the front. I don't think that I'd utilize that at all if it's going in and out of my pocket, but it is there depending on how you wanna carry it, because there's more than one way to carry this style. Then on the back side, you have a cool Velcro spot to put some patches. So of course I had to put a couple patches on it to see how they would actually carry outside of just the cool factor, but like going in and out of your pocket, will that get annoying? So far, so good. And then I was actually able to get the MKM Micro to carry here. And it's kind of perfectly suited for this type of thing because the knife will carry really deep with that really neat magnetic sheath that the Micro uses. So you can still have full access to the knife in and out, and the sheath will hold it on. But it does fit an assortment of smaller fixed blades, bigger folding knives, and of course wrenches and things like that, or whatever you want. And that kind of brings us into the 3rd dimension when it comes to this Viperade pouch, and that is the zipper. So it's got 2 zippers on it. So for this front zipper here, we went ahead and just put a couple tools in there. We've got a little Gerber multi-tool and a fire starter. And then in the big pouch, obviously with all of this gear, it does start to sandwich just a little bit. So we kept it kind of thin, and we just put some money and cards just like you'd normally carry. The only place that you're having any real sort of a compromise on this thing is its size. This thing is bordering on like sling material almost. And that kind of brings us to the way that it carries. So obviously it does fit in your pocket. You can put in your pocket. I don't have a ton of experience carrying this. I've got some, but not a ton. And the little bit that I have, it really hasn't bothered me with how much space it takes up, because with any of these systems, your entire pocket is gonna be dedicated to the pouch. So it fits in my pocket, it's doable. I haven't had any drawbacks just yet. But you can also, with these little loops that comes on the pouch, you could carry it lanyard style, or you could even carry it like sling style if that's what you wanted to do. In which case, maybe those Molly-esque webbings on the front might be a little more useful if you're not putting it in and out of your pocket all the time. Now, one thing that's really neat is that the kind of like place you'd put your knife, I currently have a harmonica, because why not? We kind of just loaded these up with fun things, you know, fun EDC things, but it will even fit my Magna Cut Buck 110, like no problem. And that actually brings me to the sponsor of our video, and that is Buck Knives. So recently, as you guys know, we went up to Buck and we walked around. We actually have another video coming from there. A really cool story of one of their employees that's been there for like 40 years or something like that. His name's Danny, really cool guy. As you guys have seen, I've talked about Buck for years, so it's really exciting to have them come on and support the channel. Now, when it comes to Buck, I'm kind of like an old school tool guy. Like the 124, the 120, the 119, and the 110. That's kind of like where I live. I actually really like the 112 as well, but I haven't had my hands on that as much. But they're always doing new stuff. They're always experimenting with things, and they are experts at heat treat. You might look at some of their steels and be like, it's 420 HC, how good can it really be? But you gotta remember that that's Paul Bow's 420 HC. They get the absolute most that you can out of that steel, make a really razor sharp knife that lasts a long time, which is cool. So anyways, Alpaka Knives, thank you so much for sponsoring the channel. If you guys haven't, definitely check them out. They have a lot of really classic options that you might dig. And there's some new stuff that honestly, a lot of their new stuff's just not for me, but I know a lot of people that are really stoked on some of that new lightweight hunting stuff that they're coming out with. So thanks a lot, Alpaka. Of course, we can't be talking about pocket organizers and EDC pouches without talking about the Alpaka Zip Pouch Pro. If you guys watch the channel at all, you know I have been crushing on this thing. It's just an absolutely great piece of gear, and I've had it in my pocket pretty consistently for the last few months, and it's kind of just stolen all my pocket time, and it's held up really, really well, which is awesome. That was the one thing I was worried about when I initially ordered this back in like December, I think is when I got this. So you got 2 tool pouches on the front, you've got a bigger single tool pouch on the back, and then similar to the big boy that we saw, but in a much more compact way, we have 2 zippers on this one as well. So we have a smaller zipper on the side, and that's really good for like flat stuff. So we got like a pack of matches and like a poker chip and stuff in that, because once you get your tools in, it does start to eat up some of that expansion space. And then in the top, we do have our cards and cash like we've seen in the other ones as well. Now, there's only really one drawback, I think, for this as a complete system, and 2 drawbacks for me personally, and why I kept advancing and looking for other carry options. So the first one is just my personal problem, and that is I tried to go without a notebook in my attempt to simplify what my carry is, and I, again, carry what you need what you carry. And I just kept running into instances where I needed my notebook. Not to mention the way that my brain works, typing stuff, I just don't retain as well. So like writing down stuff just works better for me. Secondly, I'll show you guys here in the pocket, it gets a little tight inside where you would put your cash and cards. So accessing your cash and cards is a little tough. And specifically with cash, even with folded over cash, you really have to like stick it down in there, and you really have to negotiate it with the zipper if you're in and out of your wallet even once or twice a day. Then from there, they put a little divider inside here, and you guys can see that divider in there. And in theory, it's great. I was like, oh cool, I can divide my cash, I can divide my cards. But in practice, what happens is it's just not tight enough and it's a little flimsy. So when you put stuff in, it just pushes that fold down instead of it being usable. That's my only real reservation when it comes to the Alpaka Zip Pouch Pro. I think overall, if you're looking for an organizer, out of everything on this list, if you don't need to carry a journal, this thing's pretty unbeatable. We have a bunch of videos where I feature it and I talk about it. Great little carry, and highly recommend it, especially if you don't need to carry a journal. This is the ARC Company Marksman pocket slip, and it's a really nice slim option. You've got 3 tool holders up front, you've got a notebook pocket holder on the kind of middle, and then on the very back you kind of have just this third fold that you could put cards, cash, tools, whatever it may be. So some things to consider with this is, like I said, it's a really nice thin option, which is great because as you've seen, some of these get pretty dang bulky depending on how you want to load them out. And it has just enough that you can carry probably most of what you're looking for, whether you're trying to replace your wallet with this or just carry, a decent amount of gear. Now, a few things to consider with the Marksman slip is very similar to the hide and drink one that we looked at earlier. These side pockets are fairly thin. So you can see here that, again, just our standard plain Bic pen is what we have to put in there to be able to retain a pen. The middle's pretty good, got this case knife here. But then over here, we opted for these 2 little pocket tools that you've already seen once. But that's because we didn't have a knife or a flashlight that was thin enough to go in this pocket. Now, there are plenty of knives and flashlights that could go in this pocket if that's what you wanted to carry here. We just didn't have anything. So it's pretty thin, something to consider. And then as far as the notebook goes, the slip does actually come with a notebook from ARC Company, which is cool. And it's a standard size like Field Notes, Moleskine. It's like 5.5 inches, and then the normal width as well. So you could put a 5, you could put a 5.5. It's made for a 5.5. Those are the most plentiful anyways. And then on the back here, we have this third slip. Now, I was carrying cards and cash in here, and that was just kind of to like experiment with the idea. Something to definitely consider if you're gonna carry cards and cash is you're kind of gonna pull things out in a clump and then decide what you need, like whether it's an ID or a card or the cash or whatever. So you could put like a slim wallet in this slip and then have everything kind of as one piece, or you could put a wrench or other tools or however you wanted to carry it. So I probably wouldn't recommend just going raw like cards and cash here. The Marksman carries pretty much anything that you would need in a given day with a nice simple EDC, and it's made right here in the United States. You can pick them up for right around 50 bucks. And speaking of made in the United States, that leads us to our next pocket slip. The Hitch & Timber Pocket Tool Pouch might be my favorite one on the whole list. It might even dethrone my Alpaka, which I've been carrying and really loving, and I'll show you why. But first, just the kind of the basic stuff. It's got 2 tool pockets here right on the front, and then it has the Field Notes, moleskin, whatever pocket on the back. You could also use this for anything like a battery or extra tools or whatever, but I think a journal is best. The thing that makes me really stoked on this is the weight of the material, the width of the pack once everything's loaded up, and the center zip. So similar to the hide and drink, this has a center zip on it. And what that really allows is it allows you to carry stuff maybe a little bit more loose. It allows you to get access to your cards and cash, I think, a lot easier than some of these other pocket systems that we've seen. And because it opens up on the back like this, it makes it so that you don't have to fight the zipper or fight any folds similar to what I've been experiencing on my Alpaka. And to top it all off, it's made from this really nice thin but heavy duty canvas with a really durable YKK zipper. So it just feels good in hand, and even just a little bit that I've been able to mess around with, it's already starting to get a patina, which, it's always a fun thing as well. For those reasons, this Hitch & Timber Pocket Tool Pouch is pretty rad, and I'm gonna be carrying this one quite a bit to see if it can actually dethrone the Alpaka. And those are the 6 best pocket pouches, organizers, slips, whatever you wanna call it, that are out there right now that could help replace your wallet and carry a bunch of your EDC tools. Now, all of these companies have really interesting lineup. So if some of these look too big or too small for what some of your needs might be, you could still just check out each individual company, and they're probably gonna have something that you'd really dig. I'd love to hear which ones you guys like the most. I'd love to hear if you're carrying any of these, and if I missed your favorite. And we'll catch you on the next one.